Good morning, Soulful Storytellers. Good afternoon, good evening. Carrie Severson here, your friendly storyteller trainer and host for the Soulful Storyteller. Thanks for being here. Today's live theme is how to promote your stories. So come on in here, say hello, tell me what you're working on, where you are in the writing process, so I can help you to the best of my ability. A little bit about me first. I'm a retired journalist turned personal essayist, and I help people get published. The part about my background, I think a lot of people don't know, or that I don't, put a lot of attention around, is the fact that I actually worked for a marketing agency. I was in the marketing side of writing and storytelling for probably 8 years, and before I launched my own business. So I'm very familiar with the marketing side of storytelling, and this particular theme, how to promote your stories, is one I actually love talking about because I'm super passionate about strategy when it comes to storytelling. Writing the story is a craft, and it's a talent. Learning how to get the most exposure from it is something that I've learned to do, and something that I've developed through my own business and through the marketing side of things of my professional career. So I have a lot of experience with it. So what I'm going to do today is give you some tips on how to promote your personal essays when you're published in media outlets. And then I'm going to give you some tips on how to promote your books, because I also have experience with that. So here we go. When you're published, first of all, I want to say that I have 3 tips to promote your stories as a freebie that's listed on the right-hand section of the Soulful Storyteller. What I'm going to give you is the 3 tips that I have in there, so you don't have to download that. If you are interested in more, I'll give a link a little bit later to something that you could download. So when I'm published, and when my clients are published, I remind them that personal essays, once published, really have a hot lifespan of about 5 days. Your stories are online forever, and you can always see them pop back up to the surface and get a second and a third and a fourth revival and excitement and attention. But when you first publish something, you really want to put a lot of marketing emphasis in it for the first week. So engagement is going to be key. When it's published on whatever platform it's published on, make sure that you're monitoring the comments that are happening on the actual story itself, and that you're engaging in those comments, especially if they're positive. I don't respond to negative comments, but I definitely respond to the positive ones. And I create conversation. And if people are interested in learning more or seeing something else I've published on that same theme, I have them come over to my author page, or I invite them to the Soulful Storyteller, or on Twitter, where they can check out more. It's not just like, hey, thanks, or you like their comment. You actually create engagement with them. I think a lot of times writers just want to write, and we don't want to work on our platform, and we don't want to put marketing boosts behind our pieces. But nowadays, authors are considered brands, and we are a business. In addition to our craft, we have to work on our business. So when you're published, look at all of your social media outlets and post on a different outlet different times of day over the next 5 days. So I have a personal Facebook page, I have the Soulful Storyteller, I have an author page, all on Facebook. I won't post the story on all 3 at the same time. When my clients are published, I will ask them to tag me on my personal and my author, so that I can easily share at different times of day over the next several days. LinkedIn is an asset that we've been talking a lot about here in the Soulful Storyteller that I don't think a lot of authors use. but it is definitely something that I think we should when we're published. On your LinkedIn profile, there is a section at the very, very bottom for publications, and you're able to put in the publication URL so that it exists on your profile, so that when someone comes and checks you out and scrolls through all your experiences and whatever recommendations you have, they'll be able to see everything that you've written, that you've had published on various outlets easily in one space. So make sure on that first day that you post the URL in that publication section on LinkedIn. And then to create engagement over like day 2, day 3, day 4, go back and comment on create engagement on whatever post you have in all these different social platforms, just to keep the conversation going. So engagement in social media is a strategy, and it's a lot like checkers, where you're moving one piece and comments at a time on one platform during one time a day on like Monday, and on Tuesday you're doing it over here on a different platform. It gets to be a lot, but the emphasis behind it is so key. I can't tell you the number of clients that I've gotten who have come over because they've seen something pop back up on their feed on day 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, who wouldn't have seen it had I not given it a little boost. So engagement is key. Let me pull this up really quick. Okay, the other piece that I give I tell my clients is to create, take advantage of the video opportunities that we have these days on Instagram, and I think Periscope is still around, and Facebook. One of the best sources that I've seen, or best examples I can give you of a client doing this, is Angie. We were published probably a month ago on the Empowerment Up project, and her story was super vulnerable, very personal. It was about finding out her ex-husband coordinated the death of his own father. And nobody in her personal life knew that. So what we had her do is on her business page and on her personal page. So on her personal page on day 1, she posted it on her page on Facebook in the morning. And then she let comments come in all day. And closer to the end of the day, on that first day, she did a live where she talked about the response and what it felt like to be published with this really personal story. And then she put the link to her story within the comments of her video. And then on day 3, 2 or 3, I forget which, she did the exact same thing on her professional page. And so comments came in all day in the morning, and then she did a live video on her professional page, thanking them for comments and engaging in conversation, answering questions people had. I think a lot of times audience and readers want to know more about the author. Once we get brought into the story, we're really interested in what does it feel like to have had this experience happen? How has it impacted your life? How has it impacted your business? There's all these behind the scenes emotions and things that we're able to create conversation around thanks to video. And I don't see a lot of people utilizing it. So it's always one of the tips that I give people when, creating a buzz around a story. So let me know how that feels to you. I know the engagement part on social media and creating this map feels, can get overwhelming. And then asking you to go live in video talking about the response and what it feels like to have this really personal story out there is going to challenge some people who don't feel comfortable being live or being on video. But it really is, it's so important because we're looking to connect, not just to stories, but we're looking to connect to the storyteller, and that video is an opportunity to do that. And then the last tip I will give you for your essays comes down to your personal and professional network. So when I can't remember what outlet it was. Might have been Mind Body Green. Might have been Mind Body Green. My mom saw it on Facebook before I had the opportunity to tell her I was published. And she sent me like a text and she was like, "So I see you were published." And I was like, "Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to tell you." It was a learning lesson. So here's what I do first. I send out a very personal message, particularly if it's a really personal thing that I have published. I send out a personal note to my network and I'm like, "Hey, this is what I had published this morning. It is about, this particular experience. Some of you may or may not know I went through this. If you know of somebody who is going through something similar, I would really appreciate it if you would pass this on," and encourage them to reach out to me if they have any questions about it. In 2016, I wrote a lot about my fertility journey on trying to preserve my fertility, and I had women behind the scenes contact me because they found this story through a friend, and I knew their friend. So this particular promotional avenue is one that I love because, again, it creates that intimate personal connection that I think a lot of people are looking for. And then I share the link and I always encourage them to share it on their network. So it's not just on mine, but it's on a variety of others. And I like doing that because even though so many people are like, "But it's better if you share it directly from Facebook," or I personally think it's better if you share it directly from the source that it was published on, because it increases SEO online, not necessarily on Facebook. You really want to create more SEO engagement online. So I will do that with my personal network, and then over the next 5 days, I will reach out to professional networks that I'm a part of, organizations that I pay to be a member of, organizations that I want to speak at. And I use my story as, if it's an organization I want to speak at, I use that particular published piece as an opportunity to say, if you're looking for a speaker on this particular topic, I would love to come speak to your members. I could pull out 3 tips to blah, blah, blah. 20 minutes, 45 minutes. I'm familiar with both platforms. And I've gained a number of speaking opportunities because of that promotional avenue. When it's, I go back to my alumni association and I will send them a link, old women's organizations that I've been a part of for years, and I encourage them to share it on their social platforms as well, or include it in their monthly e-blast, of cool things of members doing that you want to make note of, and it always works. So don't neglect your personal and professional networks with personal notes. Nowadays, it's super easy to just rely on social media platforms, but that personal touch and that ask will never go away. So those are tips I have for you on how to promote your personal essays when you're published in magazines and media outlets, newspapers too. Moving over to the books, when Sievers and Sisters had our Supergirl Guide to Respect, Supergirl Guide to Relationships, and Supergirl Guide to Peer Pressure published, we're responsible for the marketing, and so we did a ton of media. So first of all, please let me know if you know how to contact your local television shows. When you get into the marketing aspect of your book, TV talk shows are your friends. So you want to make friends with your local morning show producers, your local talk show hosts. Here in Phoenix, we had Good Morning Arizona, Sonoran Living, CBS Cares. We had so many, we still do. And so every time a new book was published, I would reach out to the local morning show producer or the news producer or the talk show producer, and I would talk about the benefit of this particular book, and I would tie it in as some sort of theme. So if it were timed for back to school, it would be like how to talk to your kids about bullying, or how to talk to your girls about respecting one another. If it came around for summer, it was like creative activities to keep your kids engaged. So you really want to tie in your book to the benefits that the end user will get. If it's a nonfiction book or if it's a tip book, it's really easy to do. For you fiction writers, I've seen a lot of my friends who are fiction writers do a lot of book signings at the bookstores. So creating a relationship with the bookstore manager is always really important. So creating an engagement within your local community, utilizing partners that you can create. Partnerships are going to be key for you. My experience is in the nonfiction book writing world, so I'm going to stick with what I know from my experiences there. We did a ton of trade shows, so whenever it fit, we did a train the trainer guide to go with our workbooks. So we would sell our books to schools and community centers, and we would give teachers a train the trainer manual so that they could implement our books at their schools and community centers. It really was a phenomenal success. We had this happening all over the country. So I would do trade shows here in Phoenix, and then if I were in Wisconsin or Pennsylvania or New York or California, where we have additional facilitators, I would do trade shows there too, but primarily here in Phoenix. So I would order boxes of books from the publisher myself, and we would go and we would create some sort of fun activity for the kids to do. So one of our favorite activities in Supergirl Guide to Respect is having girls identify themselves as Supergirls. So we would go get these big foam pieces that would hang on their neck. We would punch 3-hole little punches, and we would tie ribbon around it, and so it could be this name tag. And it was a really fun activity that we would sort of showcase as kids were walking around the trade show, to bring them into our booth, and then we would talk to the parents about our workbooks. And so we would have a little one-sheet document showcasing the benefit of the book, the reason for the book, and some fun information about us as authors. And we would sell the book retail. So the trade show avenue is a phenomenal way. If you're doing it right, it can be super successful too. So it was a fun activity to create engagement, bring them to us, and then an opportunity to talk to the parents about our book. So creating partnerships with your local press or bookstores are going to be huge, and then the trade shows are always a really big avenue. And then again, going back to my experience in the nonprofit world, creating opportunities to talk directly to the schools or community centers and here in Phoenix were a tremendous success. So if you're creating books for the younger generation that can fit into the schools, definitely find contacts that you can talk to at the administration level, as well as the school contacts themselves. And summer is a phenomenal time to create those relationships, because they're looking for new programs to implement coming the fall or in the spring. For those of you who are writing books for adults, same thing goes for you. There's plenty of opportunities to create partnerships with local YMCAs or yoga studios or meditation centers, things like that. Find your niche and then create relationships with your partners in your community. And if you have any questions about how to do that, reach out. I'd be happy to do a strategy session with you on creating those types of materials. I love that stuff. So there you go, some tips on how to promote your stories from a personal essay perspective as well as a book perspective. So what I'm going to do is really quick, I'm going to leave the link to my download. I created a 5-day marketing plan, how to promote your story. It's broken down step by step in terms of AM and PM for 5 straight days on what you should do to promote your personal essays, on what platform and when. You can use this 5-day marketing plan for your books as well, but it definitely works for personal essays. So there it is right here. It's $22 and it works every single time you're published. For those of you who are interested in a more detail-oriented strategy marketing plan for your books, Dana Burnworth and I have partnered. She's got experience in the fiction world. I have experience in the nonfiction world, and we're doing 2 hours for $4.99. And we can easily create a marketing plan for you in 2 hours that would work for your book and your business. So let me know how that fits. I hope you enjoy the replay, and happy storytelling.